Hi, everybody. My name is Chad Hildebrand, and this is the Module 3 assignment presentation on one issue of conflicting rights. For my topic, I have chosen freedom of religious expression in public schools, and specifically the rights of students and faculty when it comes to the expression of religious freedoms. So I will go ahead and get started with my question and situation on the next slide. So, situation question. Students and faculty at a local high school want to create a Bible study group that meets every day for lunch in the library. Is it okay for students and faculty to meet for a religious gathering such as a Bible study? Is it against the law for educators to participate in said Bible study? If it is allowed, who can lead this gathering? So, this is a situation that I've actually been familiar with at my high school. When I was growing up, I actually had a Bible study that was in the school, and there, were issues with like who could run it and all that kind of stuff, and who could participate. And so this is, I feel like, a important issue to bring forth, just because it's probably pretty prevalent in lots of high schools. It's definitely relevant in smaller towns, but also, pretty much anywhere. So this topic's pretty hot topic, so I think it's a really good one to cover for student rights. So freedom of religion. Freedom of religion in public schools has been a hot topic for a long time. Many cases have led to disputes about how religious freedoms can be practiced in the modern school system. There have been two clauses that have been added to the First Amendment over the years that deal with the effect of this issue. Now, the first one is the Establishment Clause, which is basically telling that government keeps the government or governing bodies, states, as well, from passing laws that officialize a certain religious practice and make sure that no specific religion is being officialized by the government or by schools or etc. Then the Free Exercise Clause is another important one that keeps the government or states from interfering in an individual's religious practice, so they cannot, prohibit somebody from practicing their own religion, and they cannot infringe upon that right. A couple of examples of well-known cases that have dealt with freedom of religion are Engel versus Vitale in 1962. This case I kind of did a little bit of research on, and it really it was a problem in the state of New York that ruled it said that public schools could not have a non-denominational prayer at the beginning of each day because it amounted to the stamp of approval of one particular kind of prayer, and that of making students pray a certain prayer at the beginning of school every day infringed upon their rights and was moving into the territory of having one single religion as the main prayer, reciting. Also, Abington School District versus Shemp was another case where students in Pennsylvania had to recite something like 10 verses a day and do a certain prayer or something like that. And that was another case where that got thrown out, or that was seen as a infringement upon the rights of certain students that don't adhere to that kind of religion to have to recite that in a public school. So that's a little bit of just information about religious freedom, about what the conflict is here. So first off, I'm going to talk about the arguments in favor of the students and faculty participating in that Bible study. So students have many individual freedoms that are protected by the government, and many of them pertain to the freedom of religious expression. Any student who attends public school has the right to pray, read, or talk about whatever religion they want without fear or persecution for the act or belief. Some of the areas in which these freedoms apply are such as discrimination, where students may not be discriminated by an administration for religious speech or activity. This includes teachers and educators alike and faculty. They cannot be discriminated for that religious speech or activity, whatever they choose to do with that. Discussion. Students may discuss and even attempt to persuade other students about their religion, just as they do with politics. However, harassment of any kind is not allowed. And also students, they may not, infringe bodily harm, and they may not make learning or disrupt learning by using their religious practice in a way of persuasion. Student meetings. Religious groups of students have the freedom to participate in prayer services. Of course, this is allowed to only happen during times of the day where it is not during an actual class period. So like, before and after school, during lunch, stuff like that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Bibles or religious texts are allowed in public schools. And then, of course, state-sponsored religion is forbidden. So anything that comes from the school itself is not allowed. But, Bibles are allowed in schools as a religious text. That's okay. It's by students. So we have the argument for, and now we have the argument against. So parents do not want their – so these are some of the reasons that a parent or other arguments against this Bible study discussion. So parents do not want their child exposed to religion or a different religion of their own. So some parents feel uncomfortable with their children being shown other options other than their own religion. And this kind of goes in the next one. Students are susceptible to peer pressure and coercion. So they may feel forced due to other students or faculty that are, perhaps a Christian, something like that, like feeling peer pressure to follow that religion based on who they're around. Students are given moments of silence to participate and practice their own religion. This takes place in probably some schools where they have moments of silence at the beginning of the day or during class and something like that, where they have time like that. So I'm not familiar with that one, but that sounds like it does take place. Religion can disrupt students' understanding of some sciences and religious evolution. Of course, there's lots of articles out there about students that, obviously go to, as a Christian, go to creationism opposed to evolution, and the school teaches evolution. So I can see the argument there from people that are coming from a non-religious standpoint. And then, of course, religiously driven teachers will have an influence on students, and then separation of church and state, and all that goes along with that is important to understand, keeping it separate. And then that is an arguing point against it to make sure that, when they say separation of church and state, does that mean you can actually have a Bible study in the school where you're trying to keep those things separate? And that's the question there. So after doing some analysis on this, research has shown that students are in fact free to practice religion in the public school system however they seem fit, as long as, like we mentioned earlier, it's not harmful to others, harasses others, or infringes upon student learning. According to the Washington Office of Superintendent for Public Instruction, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects a student's rights to freedom of religion and freedom of expression. Students are permitted to express beliefs in school, homework, and assignments, pray or study religious materials during recess, lunch, or non-instructional time, like we mentioned earlier, and then pray, discuss religion with other students during the day, as long as it's not disruptive of learning or other activities. So further analysis on this, and this is more of the, can teachers get involved side of, something like a Bible study. So as for teachers participating in the Bible study, according to the Equal Access Act, employees of the school or government are present at religious gatherings only in a non-participatory role. So teachers and faculty can in fact be present, but cannot lead the discussion or participate in any way with the club as an employee of the district. So due to state laws or school policies, most of the time a faculty member is required to be present during student meetings. So usually, probably 99% of schools, student club has to have a advisor or administrator, somebody that is there making sure that everything is being conducted properly and that they're being supervised. So if the meeting is anything but religion, they may participate. So obviously, if it's a club like FCCLA or something like that, the advisor or teacher can be part of that. But if it has anything to do with religious matters, they may only be there as a monitor. So for lessons learned, and kind of as a conclusion and summation of this whole question and topic. So as long as it is student-led, there are no legal ramifications for such a meeting or gathering. The example in this instance being a Bible study in the library during lunch. I think that is important I think personally it's important to allow students to make sure that they're practicing their religious freedoms to the best of their abilities. They know what they can and cannot do, and they understand that they are free to do whatever they like when it comes to religion, as long as it doesn't infringe upon others. And they can even, use that to help other people and make sure it's a good environment for being whoever they want to be. Students of all religions should feel free to express themselves and meet with others. They need to know that it's okay, their freedoms are protected, and faculty need to understand where boundaries are, of course, and they need to know what role they can play in these kind of endeavors and understand how to treat students who act. So not only do adults need to understand their role and how they need to conduct themselves in certain clubs and meetings that have something to do with religion. They also need to know, not to discriminate a student because of their religion and because of what they say or do. And if they get on to a kid for talking to somebody else about a religion, it's not against the rules to do that, unless it's really hating or getting the student to not learn what they're supposed to be doing. That's the only reason why it wouldn't be okay, as long as it's not being harmful to anybody. So with that being said, I think that's a good way to sum this up, is that students need to know their freedoms. They have the freedom and the right to do all this. So really, the club, original question about what students can do, they absolutely can do that, as long as the faculty is not participating and not being part of it or leading it. As long as the students are doing all the work and they're the ones that are participating, there's the ones that they're conducting the meeting and the gathering, it's not an issue, and there's no laws that are being broke there. Finally, this is my references. I got quite a bit from different sectors that had to do with, both sides of the spectrum, both from religious organizations and from the state and governing, and then obviously opposing some of these religious freedoms. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate your time.